Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining Barry and I again this week. We were just chatting again, as we do before we start the show, about what we're going to talk about. And I think as that if you've listened to our last two shows, you're aware that I live in Malibu, and like many areas around Los Angeles, we have been devastated by fire. And I have been spending my time working at volunteering at a donation center. And it's really, it's emotionally hard. It's hard. I mean, you want to do something, but witnessing people coming in who've lost everything, just
Right.
they're coming in looking like zombies. How do you even begin to not even the loss or the physical loss of their material possessions, their memories, irreplaceable things like, children's art projects. And that's the big one. It's always the art projects and things like that. The cards, the sentimental things, that photographs, those are the things that are hardest, I find, for most people to recover from. But it was interesting to see how some people could let go easier than other people. And it had me thinking about the subject of letting go, and at the same time really honoring the process. And I want to bring it into relationships, because I have a client right now who has suffered a great loss, and she's in a relationship where she knows it's not right. She knows she's desperately unhappy, but she will not let go because she's experienced this other loss.
Right.
And she feels this is the only stability she has. And I just think it's a fascinating subject, why so many of us have a hard time letting go. And before I bring Barry in, I just want to share one moment, because I'm hand up, me too. I'm okay at letting go, but I remember a time when I was much younger. It's when I was married, and I had two young children under the age of 4, and my ex-husband at the time wanted to leave. And I was trying everything. Because I really, as I've said before, I wanted to give my children what I didn't have growing up, which was the mother and father living in a normal house. And so I was hanging on. I was literally hanging on. I had this visual of myself like hanging off the edge of a cliff with a baby on each hip. And I felt that my ex-husband was stomping on my fingers and trying to peel them backwards. And I was going, no. And I kept, if you're listening to the podcast rather than watching it, you'll see that I'm looking down on either side of me, and it feels like this is massive abyss below me that I'm going to let go and fall into this cavern and hell, whatever it was I thought was that down there. And when I finally did let go, I knew that there was no convincing him to stay at that point. I let go, and literally within seconds, I felt my feet plop on the ground, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That wasn't 6,000 feet. It was 6 inches. And this calm came over me. And I was like, wow, I was so afraid of the unknown. And yet, like I said, I was telling somebody within a matter of a week. I mean, I was still grieving, of course, but there was a part of me that was like, I could never go back to the way I was living. And that, to me, it just is an example of what some of us do to ourselves with this fear of letting go. We block something that's so much better for us. I mean, consequently, my husband and I got back many times after that, well, a couple more times that way. But that taught me so much. That was such an example of, wow, check your thinking about letting go. So what are your experiences of letting go, Barry?
Oh, I've got a few, but I'll tell you. But I want to speak to one thing, because you said about the idea about hanging from the cliff, and then when you let go, you just drop like a foot, like 2 inches, and you landed. Because there was a meme I posted yesterday that was something like, actually, I'll look it up quickly. It's like the worst thing is watching someone drown. So it's me. The worst thing is watching someone drown and not being able to convince them that they can save themselves by just standing up.
Oh dear.
but that's the thing, and because the thing is, and I'll speak to that because that for me is such a powerful statement, because I know for myself, I've done it myself before, definitely with clients, where we get so caught up in some scenario, some belief, some structure, and it becomes so consuming, we don't know that we could step outside of it and see that everything's fine anyway. And yes, I've gone through, my stuff's been a lot more material things. Like I've had a couple of cars stolen, I've had house broken into, and like my valuable stuff stolen. Um, and thing is, the most, and a lot of it's obviously material stuff, computers, cameras, cars, etc. But the things that stuck in my heart the most was like photo albums that were stolen. Well, it was like they took everything that was in there, and also because I used to be a professional photographer, so the hard drives that had all my pictures on them in the more modern times. In the olden times, in the earlier times where it was like, I had negatives and slides and prints that probably would have been rotted anyway. But the thing is, the materials are there. And I remember some of them, in the back of my head, like my own photographic sort of storage in my head. I remember some of them. But it'd be so wonderful to go back and look at them if I had the chance. And I felt that pang of regret that I lost them. So I've had those experiences on the physical level. And relationship wise, it hasn't been the same sort of thing for me, because frankly, it's usually been fairly quick after the letting go, where I realized I couldn't get it back and I had to move on anyway. But the reason I want to talk about letting go so hard is because the opposite of letting go is being attached.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is we have this tendency in life to like to be comfortable with what's around us, particularly people, not so much necessarily environments, but around a person, family members, connections, so that we have this sense that our normality is based upon what our surroundings are like, what our environment is. And so I know for myself, I've had to learn, because I've learned this very well many times over now, that I can be centered and stable, independent of everything and anyone around me, which is a gift I got through a very painful experience. But ultimately, it became the thing that I love most, is that I can be more nimble, so to speak, in life. I don't feel so fixated, because yes, some people do get to the place where that relationship they have or the environment they're in becomes the stability that they think their life is based on. But they forget the reality is that their stability is based internally, but they don't know how to get there.
Yeah. And it's the listening to the story you tell yourself. Like I was saying
Yeah.
with the client, the story is, I'm too old to get anybody else, even though she's brilliant on many, many levels. I mean, a very accomplished, beautiful woman, incredible mother, grandmother, all these things. And but this belief that there is nobody else.
Right.
And the other one is very much, just, and again, I get it. It's like you when you're in a partnership, you rely on each other for certain things. And there was this absolute belief that she couldn't cope alone. And and I get it. I felt that way too. I was
Yep.
married for 18 years. It's the first time I'd really allowed myself to merge with another human being in that way. And I describe it as I got soft, because before that I had such abandonment issues that I was super, super independent and didn't rely on anybody. But within a marriage and having children, I started sort of, leaning into the relationship much more than I'd ever done in the past. And when that ends, there is that part, I get it, where you feel, oh my God, can I cope? What what's the word I'm going to use? What jobs or what things did that other person take care of that are now feeling daunting to you?
Right.
And it, it's there are people to hire for those things. And I
True.
hate to say it,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about sex things. That's something different.
Well, not me.
But I'm talking about the who's going to do the handy jobs around the house. Who's going to, and it's like, pay somebody. Who's going to do my computer stuff? You pay somebody. It's
Yeah.
like, but we go into this panic, and it just feels overwhelming. And if we can actually literally go step by step through what are going to be some of those missing pieces if this person leaves, what besides, especially if emotionally the relationship has died. I'm talking about when the relationship has died. I'm not talking about that. There's a different grieving process when of letting go of a relationship, when your partner is the one that has initiated the end of it. And
We
then
adopt
further,
effectively.
and yeah, and they're further ahead on that letting go because they've been
Hmm.
thinking about it for a while.
Yep.
So there is that discrepancy there, and that needs to be respected. And nobody's saying that you should rush the process or anything. Honor that grieving period, but also have awareness of when you're going into catastrophizing, and
Right.
you're. It's almost like I can't take care of myself. Where realistically, if you were calm, calm down, you could really go through those items one by one and go, okay, yeah, you know what, take them off. Yeah, I could get somebody to help me with that. Yeah, I can call a girlfriend and say, let's go for dinner. I'm not alone, or let's go and see a movie or something. There's different things that you can do to lessen that panic that comes with letting go.
but and the thing is that a lot of people up front, that's not something they even want to consider because they're so busy being in the process or in the. I mean, the word that came from me is trust. Is that they basically you've entrusted your caregiving but to somebody else, so to speak. It was literally like they take care of those things for you, etc., etc. And suddenly, what's happened is that you didn't, because as you said, the other person's further ahead if they leave you. So the thing is, what we do or tend to do oftentimes is we leave our needs out there with somebody else's hand for them
Mhm.
to take care of. And then when things change, because things change, and there is a divorce or a death. I mean, death is the same thing in that sense. Is
Yes.
that we carry this grudge because we trusted them to do something and they're not doing it anymore. So we're not willing to let go of that because we feel like somehow we're right, they're wrong. And so we create this whole scenario. There's only one option, it's the only option, but we create a whole scenario where we have to feel justified, but at the same time we're in pain because we're not letting go, we're not moving on. We're staying in the place of going, they did this to me and blame, 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 and all this other stuff to make us feel better at the same time. It's like it's like we're using a thimble to bail out the ship when it's sinking, but we think we're doing the right thing. It's like it doesn't work. We need to get off the ship and start again, or be fresh and take care of
Yeah.
ourselves. Because the trap we fall into is we never move on. So what you're saying about reaching out is like that's part of the steps of once you've left that sinking ship, so to speak. I don't want that analogy, but you become more willing to go, okay, what can I do to change my interior state? Yes, reach out to a friend, get therapy, go out with friends, do social things, do things for myself that I don't need somebody else to do, so I can find my own buoyancy again.
Yeah. And the two things that were occurring when you were saying that is one was create new memories, because it's the memories, sitting with the memories of what was, of course you honor the good times, you honor those good memories. You're going to miss them. I mourned the loss of my family
Hmm.
unit as it was, um, probably more than my ex-husband, to be truthful, but it was what I had, the life, the
Yeah.
family, the unit that that disintegrated. And but I had to create, because I had so many beautiful memories of us being on holiday and going here and doing that. And I remember I had to get busy, have some new memories, the other thing actually I did do, which was really amazing. I think um, I spent the second it was he left. I remember thinking, okay, it's back to me again. I've got to work on me, and I think I just spent days and days in the self realization center, just whether
Hmm.
they were, the sermons on the Sunday or going around the garden. But I really took that time to nurture myself and uh, and really see that in my fear of being a single parent, I had minimized the distress that was in the marriage, minimized the really this terrible dysfunction.
Yeah.
And once that person did leave, it I just was like, the peace that just descended on the house was incredible. It was like, wow, and that's why I wanted to, continue with that piece. But I also want to share something that one of the women I met at the donation center shared with me that some she's from South America, and some shame she was leaving a situation that was really beautiful and she loved it, and but she knew its time was over. She knew she needed to leave, but there were moments of like, what did I do? Why did I leave? And he said that it was like she was at the edge of a river and she had these beautiful flowers that she was putting into the river and watching them float down and float away. And she was feeling the loss because they were beautiful. It wasn't like dead flowers. It wasn't like a dead relationship. It was beautiful flowers flowing down that river. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, "You're looking in one direction." He said, "Have you thought of looking upriver to see what the new beautiful flowers that are floating down towards you will be?"
There
And
you
it
go.
was such a
Yeah.
beautiful visual of, we get so focused on the loss
Mm-hmm.
that we can't even begin to entertain the space that is created that beautiful things can come into. And yeah, that's but it's, it's human nature. We tend to go a little bit into the to fear.
It is something, again, I think it's part of the, it is, as you said, the human condition. We do get invested in things that we create or we find or we build, those situations. And the challenge is that everything we tend to build, I mean, we live in California, so earthquakes
Mhm.
could be demolished any moment, structurally speaking. So to learn to be living in the let go, which is a whole teaching of its own, is a gift in a way, because it allows you to play with what's around you and not be so invested that if it doesn't continue for some reason, whatever, your emotional state doesn't get doesn't get knocked off center by it. The biggest gift I think anybody can have is to be able to love and be in a place of joy with everything around them, whether it's the relationships or environments or just nature, and to be okay if that changes.
Mhm.
Because the biggest challenge we face is we get so hooked in, and then our emotional state is conditional upon what's around us, which is back to codependency. We talked about it many times on the show. So yeah, sorry, you were jumping in.
No, it's just whilst you were talking, I was thinking about not in this recent fire we just had, but in November 2018, when the Wolsey fire hit us. My boyfriend lost his house, but he had a much bigger house than me, and he lived up in the hills. I have a little beach mobile home, lovely little cottage. But I had all these paintings that I used to be a painter, and I had all these paintings. Big, I used to love doing really big canvases. And I just didn't have the wall space. I'd left my big house after my marriage, where I had a studio and masses of room for canvases and to display all the artwork. And so anyway, all my art paintings were up at his house, as much of my furniture was too, that I couldn't that I was still had. That even though I relinquished so much when I moved, and the some of my paintings took well over 100 hours to paint. I was more a figurative painter. And the visual of those paintings burning was hard for me, even though he
Yeah.
lost the whole house, and that was obviously much harder for him. But these were
Mhm.
just like you and your negatives and your as a photographer, your art, when that it's so interesting because I've already been going through a lot of, like, I don't need to keep pursuing certain things. I don't need to prove myself in the world. I've already proved myself to myself. I've already,
Yeah.
written books, spoken to large audiences, sold paintings. These are achievements that I satisfy me. I don't need to get accolades for them. I've reached my point of proving something to myself. I don't need to prove anything to anybody else. But there was a part of me with my painting that I did feel I was leaving something. I don't feel it with my children because they come through me, they're not mine. But my paintings were part of me that I was going to leave on this planet when
Yeah.
I leave. Um, I still have a few in my house now, but so it was interesting. It was like, oh, there is still more attachment in there. It was a sneaky one.
Well, because you poured your blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, into the paintings in a way,
Yeah,
your time and effort. So there was an investment there that I would suggest maybe you had wanted, that you're getting returned by seeing it every day or experiencing it, or other people witnessing it. And now
yeah,
it's gone.
yeah,
It's like, because I know for myself, this, like with my photography, there was a little part of me that was stuck in an idea about futility, because the fact is, like, what stuff I created won't be seen by anybody anymore.
yeah.
And I mean, yes, it did go out in publications and stuff back in the day, but they're all gone too. So that's the thing, is we can get so hooked into some of the most, I want to say, the silliest things, but some of the things that we really have no control over.
Well,
Which is
that is another show right there.
I keep doing that.
I was gonna say, is there anything that we have control over, really? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm in that space of
Right.
nothing. This is interesting because I think it's pretty clear if you do listen to the show where my political leanings lean towards. Again, with the election, I noticed how many people that were so angry and so frustrated still are. And I do too. And there are moments where I get, oh my God, it cannot get worse. And I actually had to shut the news off. During the fires, I was watching local news just to know what was going on with the fires,
Right. Yeah.
just so I knew when to leave my house or when to come back to my house. But other than that, I just thought I need a break from this. And there's been a real, I did notice with me, there was almost this, there's got to be like a level of trust when you let go. I trust that the universe is a good place. And I trust that this period of time in politics that we're going through is necessary. I mean, I hoped it wasn't going to be necessary. I hoped it was going to be different. But for some reason, I feel that there is a bigger picture, and that maybe if this, is given a chance, I hope it works out well. I really do. But I do think if it doesn't work out well, people needed to see it. They
Yeah.
needed to see it because they were not. It was. I just think that there's more of a chance of our country coming together after this administration has had a chance to see what they can do. I think at the end of it, there will be a more coming together. I trust that. But it was interesting. I can see your expression, Barry. Go on, join it.
Yeah, I have tended not to listen to the news as much as I used to, partly because it's becoming repetitive. But I'm clearly watching a lot of people on social media have very stark views about things. And yes, I have this foot in both camps, so to speak, is I definitely have this feeling for those people, and I feel it too sometimes, where they say they're going to do this, this, and this, and there's such an overwhelm of negativity or such an overwhelm of behavior. I'm going, it can't be real. It can't. They can't be doing this. It shouldn't. All this stuff. Again, in the mundanity of it, or the whatever you call it of it. At the same time, I've had enough input from people I trust on a higher level in terms of inputs from other places and different perspectives that we will get through this. There is a better thing coming after this. And yes, as you said, it's almost like we need to go through this extremity, this challenging situation, so that everybody will see what this choice created and what this result is, so that we don't have people going, yeah, but it's like, no, it's black and white. And I think in a way we're doing this walk now almost to basically say everybody who chose one side or the other will see the truth clearly now
Yeah.
and realize that what they voted wasn't what they really wanted, is what they thought they wanted. Now they know differently. So
Exactly.
I have no control over that. It's my belief.
No, no, 100%. I'm 100% on the same page as you. It's almost like you have to see it to believe it sometimes. And I just felt that there was so much of a smoke screen or whatever you want to call it, that sometimes it's like, okay, take the stage, show really what you're going
Yeah.
to do.
So
So,
let's go. Let's go. I want to bring it back to this topic for a second. There's something in it. I want to bring that too, because the thing about it is, in relationships, sometimes our partners, and I'm using this interesting parallel, will say things or do things that we will not believe initially. We will simply paint them with a brush and say it's fine. It's just an aberration. It's not really who they are. And they then go ahead and do it again or again, and we still don't forgive them. Sorry, we still don't feel like we need to forgive them or forgive ourselves or whatever that is. So one of the things about letting go is sometimes we need to be convinced of the truth before we do so. And we live in this fantasy or illusion that that aberration of behavior isn't actually true. And so when we start to look at our partnerships or relationships clearly with a clear lens, sometimes we don't need to be caught up in the letting go attachment to not letting go. We see it clearly enough to go, you know what, I need to step back and let go myself. And then you're free earlier.
no, absolutely. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about, again, like bringing in the politics for a minute. There have been such incredible differences in viewpoints from some of the people I know. Most of the people I know are very much aligned with the way I think. But there is the odd person here and there that doesn't,
Mhm.
and doesn't respect the differences and wants to keep pushing and convincing and trying
Yes.
to win me over. And I've had to let go of those relationships. I've
Mhm.
had to respect the fact that there is information being revealed to me that this person is that they're much more different than I ever thought they were. And therefore we're not as closely aligned. So rather than stand there in this struggle of no, you're wrong, I'm right, vice versa, or anything, it's just letting go.
Yeah.
You're not one of my intimate circle anymore. I don't particularly I don't want to hear what I believe are racist or bigoted comments. That's not a relationship I want to be in. So I'm noticing I am letting go a lot, and um, it's very interesting. I very quickly, we've got a few minutes, but when I was evacuated, I was in such a stupor, and we were up in Solvang, and there was a it was a beautiful shop, a gem shop, metaphysical shop, and there was a woman doing card readings in the back, and she was sitting at a table, and there was nobody there, and I thought, I haven't had a card reading in 20 years or more. And just sort of, I take it very lightly. I feel that my intuition is pretty keyed in, and my internal guidance system is pretty spot on. So I don't normally ask for other people's input or advice. But I thought, oh, I've got time to kill here. And it was my birthday. That's right, it was my birthday. And I thought, oh, I'll just give it to myself for my birthday. And the first thing she said to me, she goes, boy, this is a year of letting go.
Oh,
Very first thing she said to me. And she said, I don't do the future. I only just say what's going on right now. She did a reading. And in the end, she said, oh, out of this stack of cards over here, just take one. This is my gift to you. So you can't see what's written on the cards. You just spread them all out, and then you take one, and she lets you go with it. And it said, letting go. No, I should have checked the rest of the cards. Now I'm thinking about it.
well, they always. Yeah, that's
But
the card trick. Yeah.
it was just the bookend of letting go. And I thought, well, it really is true, because in that moment, I didn't know whether, I had a house or not, didn't know if I had a business, didn't know if I had anything.
Right.
So it's very much, I was very aware as I sat in that hotel room, and I think I've shared this, where I had my boyfriend and my son, one of my sons with me, my dog and my two cats. And I thought, in the end, this is all that matters. This is just all that matters. And
Yeah.
I felt very grateful, which we talked about last week, and at peace,
Mhm.
at peace with that I've come so far, and that it's easier for me to let go than it was when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the gifts of maturity, I think. Well, just life experience, frankly. Definitely, I've had that. That's for me too. Is the number of experience I've had where I've had to let go of something, whether it's relationship or location or house or property. I think enough times you learn the lesson that eventually you go, oh, this again, and you become much more facile about moving forward without being attached to things. So that's my wish for everybody.
Exactly. And I think I've shared that, I'm in my mobile home right now, and I've seen Malibu from the mansion to the mobile home. And each time you make a move, if it's a downward move, there's a period of mourning, letting go.
Yes.
But each time I've made that move, I really loved where I was.
Hmm.
So it's so interesting. You look at it as, fear, and I'm stepping down, but you accommodate and you adjust, and you start seeing the world through the lens of which you're in at that moment, and
That's
loving it, appreciating it.
it's a human skill, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, then. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining us and listening to Barry and I ramble about what we do each week.
So welcome.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.